Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Disney Resorts Podcast. My name is Kenny Hayes, and I am joined alongside, as always, by the one, the only, Walt Ramirez.
Hey, Ken, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I know it's been several weeks now since our Disney vacation, but I'm still having those Disney blues.
I know how you feel. The last episode we taped, I had a little bit of a mistake, so I wanted to correct it right out of the chute here today. I mistakenly referred to the California Grill as the Grand Floridian. Don't ask me why. I guess I was pretty tired, but considering it's not even in the same resort. So I apologize for that, but if you watch that last episode and you hear me talk about Grand Floridian Restaurant, I'm actually referring to the California Grill. So my apologies for that. And the number 2 apology in the apology tour this week, we mentioned at the end of the last episode about Disney's Genie Plus, and I had mentioned very early on that I was kind of on the fence about it, that it wasn't really awful. Well, I'm back to say that it is absolutely awful. I do not recommend Genie Plus at all, and we can get into more detail at a later time about the mostly minuses of Genie Plus. But I just wanted to mention that right off the bat because we had mentioned that earlier in the previous show, and it is I don't know how you feel about it, Ken. I know we've discussed it from time to time, but it is just a disaster right now, and I really don't see how it's going to get any better.
I totally agree with you. And like I said, we used it in our January trip, and you pay a lot of money, and you're guaranteed really only one ride. In this past trip, our family decided, Walter and Kendall, they went to the parks and they went on some rides. My family only went to 2 parks, and we were staying over at Boardwalk, and we're going to dive into Boardwalk in just a moment. But I didn't do it this time. We only went to Epcot. I enjoyed Epcot very much. It was the Flower and Garden Festival. You, me, and your wife, we took a trip around the world. We had a lot of food, a lot of drinks, and mostly everything was very good. We then took another trip over to Hollywood Studios, kind of just walked around. The only ride I did do was Muppets 3D, which I love, and I try to do it every single time. I'm a big Muppets guy. But that was it. And you know what? This was my first time actually not going to Magic Kingdom. I know, we were speaking all week when we were together, and you were over there and told me how busy it was. And I'm like, I'm not even going to pay the money. I'm not even going to go over there and buck the crowds just because I wanted to sit back and enjoy. And in future shows, I think we'll talk about just a resort stay. And I had a blast. I really had a blast sticking back mostly and hanging out at the resorts or resort hopping. I really had a good time. But yeah, I totally agree. And we don't want to get bogged down on it. I am not a fan of Genie Plus whatsoever. I think they need to rethink this. We understand they're going to keep some kind of paid version, but like I said in past episodes, just make it a fast pass, a paid fast pass, 60-day window, call it a day, and it's fixed. You're done. So
I agree.
So in this week's episode,
they need to rethink it and definitely they need to rethink it and definitely come up with a system that is definitely more user-friendly, more customer-friendly, because the current system is just terrible.
I absolutely agree. So, folks, now that we got all of that out of the way, and Walter, we accept your apology. But Walter's going to be interviewing me about my stay at the Boardwalk Villas. We stayed right across the lake over there from Walter when we just recently traveled. We're going to dive into real briefly the Disney Visa card holders discounts for resorts coming up in late August into early September later on this year. We were supposed to talk about it in our last episode, so that's my apology. We totally forgot to do that. So we're going to dive into that shortly. Then we're going to give our takes on a Baseline Tap review, which is located over at Hollywood Studios. And after this show, in the recent coming days, on our YouTube page, as well as Facebook, Instagram, we also did a live video on site at Baseline Tap. So we'll put that up for you guys as well. And then we'll wrap up with what we currently miss at Walt Disney World. So, like I said, my family stayed at the Boardwalk Villas. It is one of my favorite resorts. One of the things I was very happy to see return, Walt, was the outside entertainment on the boardwalk. For the first time in nearly 2 years, it felt totally normal. The crowds were fully back. The entertainment was back. The restaurants were reopened. Everything was, besides ESPN, which is going bye-bye. It was like a well-oiled machine, and it made me feel very good. And it was a really good thing to sit back and take it in and experience something that we haven't experienced in quite some time. But so we want to go over.
Now you stayed at a. Was it a studio or was it a 1 bedroom?
Yeah, we had a 1 bedroom villa on the Disney Vacation Club side.
Okay.
It was me, my wife, and my mother-in-law. Our mother-in-law. And
yes.
So yeah, she was on the pullout.
She's watching, so it is watching, our
yes.
mother-in-law.
Yes. I'm going to be honest with you. It was very nice, very clean. It was in very good shape. I would say with our room, the only knock, and you'll like this one, the carpet in the bedroom had some slight wear on it. But if you take that out of the equation, the room was spot on, clean everywhere. I actually ended up with a corner bedroom, and it's unique because our room was 3rd floor. It was 3rd floor overlooking the what we would call the quiet pool. And that allowed us to have another window on the right side. So if you're standing behind the kitchen and you're looking out towards the balcony, we had a window on the right side of our room, because I noticed when we first checked in, I was wondering why, and these rooms haven't been refurbished in the last couple of years, so that the TV is still above. They have like an armoire there. And I was wondering why everything was off-centered. And it took me a minute to catch. I was like, why is the TV in the corner? And lo and behold, I look and I'm like, wow, there's a window here. And we had a corner room. So that's the first time I've seen that. But yeah, everything was good. That was one of the rooms that has not had in the bathrooms with the soaps, how they're attached to the shower walls. They were not attached to the shower walls. We still had the, which everyone likes to steal. So, but yeah, I was very happy with my stay. I did notice some of the things like you noticed, like in the hallways, when they're taking your luggage with the carts, there was some scratches, some nicks on the walls. But other than that, it was very clean, because even in the mornings when we would go out to, whether we were going to the park or going out to get breakfast, they were vacuuming the hallways. They were, mopping by the elevators. The lobby was very clean. Cast members very friendly, and everything was neat, tidy, in order. And I would absolutely stay there again. I had a blast. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but even like the community pool was the main pool that used to have the crazy clown looking slide. That was fairly busy. So I had the other pool. If I could just came right down the steps, I could walk right out to the secondary pool, the quiet pool, and there was 5 people there. It was like I had a pool to myself, jacuzzi to myself. So I had a blast.
Now, you mentioned that you enjoyed the entertainment on the boardwalk. Of all of the entertainment that they currently have available, or that they brought back, which is your favorite?
I really enjoyed, and I don't know, I could be wrong. I don't know. It was a mother daughter, like a tandem, and they were doing all these different acts and juggling and all kinds of stuff. And I can actually post a video on our social as well. We were going over to Epcot that night, actually to Le Cellier for dinner, and it was great. They were out there for 5-10 minutes. We caught the latter part of the show, but it was just nice to see entertainment brought back, because whether it's in the parks or it's at the resorts, that's what made Disney unique. That you could literally be walking somewhere, you could come out of a restaurant, you could be going into a park, and entertainment just pops up. And that's what's always made, a trip to Disney. It was always like the icing on the cake, for me at least. And it was very nice, and they put on a great show. And
Absolutely.
They actually looked like sisters. But lo and behold, when the show was over, when they wrapped up, that they said they were a mother-daughter show. But they were excellent. I don't know what they were called, because we were on a little bit of a time constraint because we had to meet you guys at Le Cellier. But yeah, I had a blast. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Did you have an opportunity to go to the bakery there at all for like breakfast or at any point in your stay?
Yes, actually, 3 days, 3 out of the 5, we went to the bakery in the mornings. I know it's iconic, and a lot of people are probably upset that the bakery will be going over a transformation in the coming months, but it needs it. It's very limited. When you're at the boardwalk, you're very limited on where you can get a counter service, because basically there is none. You're going to have to either go to one of the pools, or you're going to have to go over to Beach and Yacht, or make reservations to go somewhere, because you're very limited when it comes to boardwalk. But you could go in there and you could get like your pastries. Mm-hmm. They do have a select few sandwiches, but it's basically, like your coffee, donuts, cakes. They have the cupcakes there, some of the specialty cupcakes. Then it's just like your normal water, Gatorade, Coke, stuff like that. So I am actually very excited that it's becoming a place of counter service where you can actually get something to eat. I'm only assuming, I know they said a sub shop, but I can only assume that it's going to be open for breakfast, and it'll at least have sandwiches or something to do like that, because I do like to go there in the morning. I do like to grab a crumb cake, get a cup of coffee, sit on the boardwalk, just people watch and relax and take it all in. So, but yes, I did go there. Cast members were very friendly. Everything was good. I love the crumb cake there. If you're a crumb cake guy, then or woman, go there. It's stacked really high, and it's really enjoyable. I shouldn't have had it, but I had it anyway. Calories don't count in Disney.
And they serve, and that's very true. And they serve Joffrey's coffee there?
Yes, they do. Yep, they got Joffrey's coffee there. And I have to say, I have never been a Starbucks fan over the years. I've been more of a Dunkin' guy. I don't know if it's me getting older, but I am starting to acquire a taste for Starbucks. And I notice myself, especially when I'm at Disney, and I'm still a Joffrey's guy. I do. I like their coffees. Their 50th anniversary blend that they have right now for the rooms. And I'm not a dark coffee guy. I really enjoy that. But yes, they had Joffrey's coffee there.
Good. I'm glad that they made you happy with the Joffrey's coffee. So you mentioned your room. Did you feel that there was anything in your room that maybe could have been maybe a little bit better as far as any kind of changes in the future for the boardwalk as far as a refurbishment? Because I know that we had mentioned in my beach club that I felt like there was the one room I was at was much smaller than the first room I was at. So I didn't know like if you felt the room size was okay, or did you feel that maybe it needs a change?
Overall, it's funny because I looked this up the other day. I wanted to know when the last time Boardwalk had any type of refurbishment. And the one thing I did find, but it's not on the DVC side where I stayed, was the Boardwalk Inn was last refurbished in 2012 or 2014. So it's one of those 2 years. So it's been quite a while for the cash side. And the cash side needs it. I've never stayed on the cash, but I've seen pictures, and it was due for a change. But on the villas, it looks like there has been not a full refurbishment, but I think they call it a soft goods, where it's like, whether it's carpet, flooring, paint, maybe some of the, whether it could be the microwave, the stove. That looks like it's probably been done, I would say, probably over the last 5 to 6 years. But when you compare it to, like Saratoga, where I own at, who just completed an entire full refurbishment, you could still tell it's the older oh my God, cabinets. It's the older appliances. That's got a Mr. Coffee in it still. The flooring looks relatively new, but you see a lot of nicks and scratches, like on the whether it's the kitchen table, whether it's the dresser in the bedroom. And one thing I like with the refurbishment, say like in Saratoga and some of these new ones, is that they got rid of those big dressers, those big bulky dressers that the TV sits on. It just eats up a lot of room, and there's really no need for it. And now when you see with all these new refurbishments, they're slimming that down, and you're going with a much thinner TV, and it just opens up the room a lot more. So I am looking forward to Boardwalk coming through a refurbishment. I don't think it's anytime soon, because Saratoga just finished up. The last thing I read is Boulder Ridge is up next. And I think they're if they haven't already, they're finalizing the, what the room colors are going to look like, the furniture and all that. So the demo rooms, they're going to be picking out their new style. So I would assume, Walt, it's probably going to be a couple more years before Boardwalk sees a refurbishment. Does it need it this very second? No. But you could start to tell, though, that the furniture is a little dinged up. Over the next few years, it's definitely going to need a refurbishment. But all in all, though, the cast members there did a great job on housekeeping. It was very clean. I think we talked about it briefly on our last episode when I said I was going to jinx myself, because each and every time that I've stayed as a DVC member, I've always got fresh towels, and I let the cat out of the bag before our last trip. And this was the actual first trip that when I placed everything on the floor, I didn't get new towels. Now, the gentleman in the hallway, my wife stopped him, like I said in the last episode. He was more than happy. He accommodated us. He gave us fresh towels and, all that. But, yeah, I jinxed it. So this was my first trip as a DVC member that I didn't get fresh towels, at least without asking.
Yeah, I think that's something that they've cut back on, and we talked about some of those cutbacks on the previous episode. I think you're seeing some of those changes, although they may seem minor. If you've been going there for 20 plus years, you've seen the significant change over that time in a lot of those little amenities that you were getting in the rooms that you're no longer getting, whether it be service, or in your case, the towels, or, your coffee creamers, like you mentioned in the previous episode. So those little things are starting to go away, unfortunately. Let's hope that they come back. That's what we can hope for.
Fingers crossed.
Overall, you feel like you feel that that your stay at Boardwalk was excellent, I would assume.
Yes. Without a doubt. I had a great time. And if I could go back this second, I absolutely would. There's just something about it, Walt.
That would make two of us.
There's just something about it. And I'm a big Saratoga fan, and it's not just because I own there. I didn't buy there because, like a lot of DVC members buy there because they're the cheapest points on property. They're the cheapest annual dues on property. I actually really enjoy the resort. I enjoy how big it is. I love what they did with the refurb. Even staying at Boardwalk, there was a part of me when I left that morning, because our second part of our trip, we were heading to the West Coast of Florida. We actually stopped at Old Key West to go to the gift shop, and I had to stop at Saratoga because it's like tradition. I have to go there at least once, and I bought something before I went, and I was like, wow, I even though I had a blast at Boardwalk, it was I missed out. I there's just something about Saratoga that I really, really enjoy. And not to sound cliche, but like when you hear the welcome home, like when I go to Saratoga, it literally feels like my second home, especially now after the refurb. And I got to give, I know we give Disney, we tell Disney when we think they're right and when they're wrong. And even the cast members over at Saratoga they're good. They're really good and hardworking people, and we appreciate everything they do. So, but yeah, well, I would definitely, anyone out there who's looking to plan a trip, I would definitely stay at a beach club. Spot on. I'm sorry.
So
Boardwalk.
also we have to mention that we did Boardwalk. Yes, we have to mention also that we did eat at the Flying Fish, and we will be doing a review of the Flying Fish in an upcoming episode, possibly the next episode. And I believe also, I don't know if you've ever tried the pizza on the Boardwalk there. I perhaps you didn't do it on this trip, but I don't know if you've ever done that in the past on previous trips.
Yeah. Yes, I have, and it's terrible. Don't do it.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clear that up because I've heard stories about it, but I wasn't sure.
You know what? I know we're picky. We come from the tri-state area. We're from New Jersey. We're a stone throw away from the city, so we're used to very good pizza. So don't hate on us. But no, I mean, listen, if you're in a pinch and you're on the Boardwalk and you need something, to go grab a slice of pizza. But the one time we grabbed, I think might have been last year, Beth and we grabbed 2 slices of pizza, and for whatever reason, we wanted a beer. So I walked up to the screen door and I got 2 Coronas. And I think everything came out to like $45. I was pushing $50 for like 2 slices of pizza and 2 bottles of beer. I was like, wow. But you know what? You're on vacation. A bad pizza in Disney, I'll take it any day of the week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you were going to mention the Visa card offer that is out there right now for travel.
Yeah, so Disney recently announced that if you're a if you're a Disney Visa card member from August 28th through September 19th at select Disney resorts, you can get a discount by booking your stay, as long as you're a Disney Visa gift card holder, up to a 30% off discount, ranging all the way down to a 10% discount. And what I'll do is I'll go over it very briefly, the resorts and the percentages. So coming in at 30% off would be Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge and the Family Suites over at Art of Animation Resort. Coming in at the 25% off range would be Boulder Ridge at Disney's Wilderness Lodge, Animal Kingdom Villas at Kidani Village, the Boardwalk Inn, Contemporary Resort, Coronado Springs Resort, the Grand Floridian, Old Key West, Riviera, Saratoga, and Yacht Club. Now, Walt, you and I were talking briefly before the show, and in that 25% off range, Coronado Springs is the only moderate resort in that group. And I think I would actually consider that during this time frame. What's your thoughts?
Absolutely, I agree. I think it's for a moderate resort, it's one of the more underrated ones. It's got a pretty good vibe and atmosphere there. It's got some good restaurants. It's got a nice bar area. So overall, I would definitely, if you can get that in the 250, let's put it this way, under $300 a night, between 250 and 300, I would definitely consider that resort for vacation plans. The knock against it, as we discussed, is that it is pretty far away from everything else. But I wouldn't let if you're renting a car, or even if you're using Disney transportation, if you have to, I would still consider that. Port Orleans was coming in, I believe, around between 3 and 315 a night. That's a little bit on the high side, but definitely would consider Coronado Springs. I think it gets a knock because it's a little bit more considered a business hotel or a convention hotel, and it really it can be from time to time, but I think I think it's overplayed for that resort, that it comes in, people consider it that. If we actually did walk around on this last vacation, went there, and I took some pictures, which I'm sure we can post some, and everyone can see what the resort looks like, what the pool looks like. Pretty cool pyramid pool that they have there, which if you've been watching the news, you've seen that someone tried to climb up the pyramid.
Yeah, we were there just days before that actually happened. So we have pictures. We may have some of the last pictures without the new netting they put up.
Yeah, without the blockade that they put up. But overall, I think it's an underrated resort for that price range, and I would recommend it.
I would too. And real briefly, because I know we want to wrap this portion up, the last resort that I stayed at prior to the pandemic was in late January, early February of 2020, and that was our first stay at Coronado Springs. We loved it. We loved it. I loved the theming. It had the 3 caballeros in there. They were recently renovated. They were very good. They also have Keurigs in them. That's a big plus on my end. Like I said, it does come off, like you said, Walt, as a little corporate. But because in the mornings, it was like 6:37 in the morning, I woke up and we had a corner room. We were right on the corner of the building. And what you heard was the high heels of the women. They were going to the conferences in the morning still. So it does give a little bit of that corporate vibe. But at the same time, if you're looking for a little more of an adult Disney vacation, Coronado Springs is definitely something you can consider. Very nice. But at the same time, also it's a little more adultish.
Yes, and we also had lunch at the Rick's sports bar there, which we also would highly recommend. It's a lot of TVs, good place to watch any sports or games that you're into at the moment if you're on vacation and one of your teams is playing. It's not a highly congested sports bar, and the food is very good. So that's definitely a consideration.
So let's see what we got here. All right, so we're down to the 20% range now. So coming in at 20% off would be the cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort, Disney's Port Orleans French Quarter, and Port Orleans Riverside. I'm going to say Riverside. Well, I don't know if you've stayed there in a while. I had a bad experience at Riverside. I like the way it looks. I'm not overly fond with the theming of some of it there, but the last time we stayed there, and we actually ended up there by our plane getting canceled, our flight. And Disney was great. They accommodated us because we were at the airport. We were already through security, and our flight got canceled. So we called up Disney and got us a room over at Riverside. And luckily, we didn't have to wait till 4 o'clock. By 11 o'clock in the morning, we were back at Disney, and they had a room ready for us. But when we checked into the room, there was dust everywhere, on the ceilings, on the fans. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But I got to say though, we didn't pay for the room. They comped the room that night. We had dinner at Olivia's over at Old Key West. They comped our dinner. And they also said to us that, hey, on your next trip, I spoke to a manager. They gave us their phone number, extension, and they says, you're going to be coming back for your birthday. We'll make it up to you. Lo and behold, guess what? The pandemic hit, and I never got to take them up on that. But yeah, I not overly impressed with Riverside. French Quarter, though, I really want to try. That's the last of the moderates that I have not stayed at, excluding the cabins over at Fort Wilderness. And we have friends of ours that have actually gone on both sides, and they actually like French Quarter now. So I do want to book a trip in the near future, and I do want to stay over at French Quarter, and maybe I'll take care of this deal with that.
Yeah, that would work out really well.
So
for you.
Coming in at the 15% off range is all the All-Stars, movies, music, and sports. Coming in last at 10% off would be Bay Lake Tower over at Disney's Contemporary, the campsites at Disney's Fort Wilderness, Copper Creek Villas over at Wilderness Lodge, Beach Club Resort, Boardwalk Villas, Caribbean Beach Resort, Pop Century, and rounding it up at Wilderness Lodge. Now, I think you'll agree, Walt, with the 10%, seeing especially even like Caribbean Beach, Pop Century, they purposely put them on a 10% just because, unfortunately, now that they're attached to the Skyliner, it diminishes the savings because everybody wants to stay there now. I think you would agree.
Correct. Yeah, I think they're going to try to make sure that they keep people away from that resort because they know they can sell it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to give you a huge discount to stay there. I would, most of the resorts you named are pretty good. The All-Stars, obviously, I would try to stay away from. But if you can take advantage of any of those discounts using your Visa card or in the current offers that they have available, which I believe is for Disney Plus membership, I believe also gives you a 25% off discount during the summer months. Those are the opportunities that you should take to try to get into a room that perhaps might be a little bit overpriced or out of your range at other busier times of the year, especially during summertime or holidays, because they are so crowded right now and so booked up that it is difficult to get the rooms you want, and it's also difficult to get them at a reasonable price. So I would urge, if you're looking for a vacation down there, I would take them up on these offers when they become available.
Those offers are available now. So, and they are limited, depending on rooms, the room quantities, how much they have available, we don't know. So if you're looking to book a trip in late summer for us, if you're in Disney's eyes, fall, I would definitely jump on that because I think you can get some good deals there and you could put a couple extra bucks back in your pocket. So now that we wrapped up with that segment, we're going to turn it over to our baseline tap review. And Walter has talked a lot about this leading up to our vacation. And I all the years that it's been there now, I've walked past it numerous times going over to Muppets 3D. And I've just never tried it. And Walter spoke very highly of it. So, Walt, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you let the people know what you thought about baseline tap?
Yeah, we really couldn't. I wanted to bring you into the review or into the conversation when we were bringing it up on previous shows, but I couldn't because of the surprise. I didn't want my wife finding out, so I had to kind of, dance around the edges of talking about it. But we finally got over there during this vacation, and it is, as everyone knows that's been watching us for the first 5 episodes, that they know that it is one of my favorite places to stop at Hollywood Studios, and really one of my favorite places as far as just relaxing and having a couple of beers and just as like a watering hole type of place. It's highly underrated, even though everyone talks about it, believe it or not. Ironically, it is has an excellent selection of beers, which we can post on the video when we post it on YouTube and Facebook. We had the charcuterie board, and we had a beer flight. The charcuterie board was $10, and the beer flight was also, let me just make sure here. The beer flight was $12. So that is a selection of four 5-ounce pours. And you have 7 different selections that you can choose from. So it's a wide range between different IPAs and, a few other slightly stronger beers. Let's put it that way. Overall, it's a good value. It's one of the better values in Disney for a snack. It gives you a nice break in Hollywood studios, even if it's not an overly hot day, to have to be able to sit if you're waiting for, to get on Rise of the Resistance or any other ride. It's actually right there by the entrance to Star Wars Land. The selection that you get is a few different meats, pepperoni, a few different cheeses, some crackers, grapes, and you also get sweet and sour pickles. I believe they're sweet pickles.
They were good.
So it's a charcuterie board that is not overly over the top for some people's tastes. It's pretty simple. Some restaurants, if you go to in Disney, they'll give you cheeses that you're really not really fond of or interested in, and these were pretty simple. You had a cheddar, a blue cheese, a Swiss, and they do change it up from time to time, because we noticed also that other folks that were there having the same thing had a slightly different variation of the cheeses on their boards than we did on ours. So that was kind of interesting. You can also get a Bavarian pretzel, which is $9. It's a gigantic pretzel. And one of the things which I noticed that we didn't try, which I should have, was the coffee rubbed ribeye steak puff, which comes with an olive salad. So that's going to be on my list for the next trip. So Kenny and I will be doing a review on that on our next trip.
Absolutely.
Overall, how would you rate the Baseline Tap House experience?
If we're doing what we started in the last episode, a 1 through 5, I'm going to say a 5. I had a great experience there. We were very fortunate when we walked into there, because, it's not it's limited seating out. There's very limited seating inside. There's enough outside seating, but for the amount of people in the park, it's not much at all. A couple was getting up. We were able to grab, the 5 of us were able to grab a table. And it was just a great laid back experience at a great location. And when we post the video on our YouTube page, it was our first ever on-site review. So we're very proud of ourselves. But like Walter said, we had 2 charcuterie boards. Correct me if I'm wrong, Walt. I love saying the word charcuterie. I'm sorry. The charcuterie. But
yes, you do. You have a...
Yeah, I love it. It's the password of the day. Every day, charcuterie. But so we had 2 charcuterie boards. We had the Bavarian pretzel, and we had the flight, the beer flight, right? Did I say that right? And we had a couple sodas.
Yes.
And I think the total was like $56. How could you go wrong? You really can't. Great location, great view if you like to people watch, very laid back, and you're a stone throw away from going into Galaxy's Edge after the fact. So I for the first time, very impressed with it. I'm upset that all the times I've walked by and never experienced it. I wish I would have done it sooner. But yeah, total. If you're going, make sure you take a half hour out of your day and go visit Baseline Tap. You can't go wrong. And like I said, we have a video in the coming days. We're going to put it out there for you.
Yeah. And even if it's just a couple, if it's just two people and you're having just the board and the beer flight, it's $22.
Yeah.
So for $22, you got four. You can split it with somebody. Each of you gets 2 beers, and you're having a snack. And if you're familiar with Disney's pricing on most of their food items, $22 is a bargain for alcohol and a snack. And it's not a light snack. I mean, it's a pretty decent snack for
I think if you're looking to have a drink or two and you're looking to have a light lunch, it's a no-brainer. If you're in Hollywood Studios, definitely go check it out.
Especially considering the selections and choices that you have at Hollywood Studios are pretty limited. Unless you're, want to go to Pizza Safari, which is, by the way, right across from Baseline Tap House. So in case you get tired of the charcuterie board, you
Pizza
can always
Rizzo.
go have some frozen pizza.
Frozen
pizza, Pizza Safari there, or Pizza Rizzo. I'm sorry, Pizza Safari's in Animal Kingdom.
Do yourself a favor, stay on this side of the street and go to Baseline Tap. We're not going to steer you wrong.
Absolutely.
So wrapping up, what we do in every episode is what we currently miss at Walt Disney World.
Yep.
So Walt, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you currently
miss? So right
miss?
now, well, I didn't have to think very long about this because we were talking about Genie Plus and at the beginning of this episode and in the previous one. And one of the things that I miss dearly is the traditional paper Fast Pass. Now, for those people who don't know what the traditional paper Fast Pass is, the parks used to have kiosks that would dispense paper ticket Fast Passes. And you would have to go to the park, physically go to the park and grab your Fast Passes for the day. Now, you didn't have to leave the park. You could stay in the park. Sometimes you would get a time that was relatively close. Sometimes you'd get a time, depending on the ride, where it could be at the end or near the end of your day. So you could leave the park. This was back in the days where you didn't have to actually have a park reservation, that you were actually allowed to physically go into a park without permission because you paid for it when you have an annual pass or a park pass. So the paper Fast Pass is something that I miss because it's very old school for people who have been going to Disney for over 20 plus years. You know what I'm talking about. Some people didn't like it because they had to go there physically and get it. I personally prefer it because I knew that I was getting on the ride. And under the current system, and plus you had also the ability to get multiple Fast Passes. So you could go to a ride, get the paper Fast Pass, go to another ride and get other Fast Passes for a different time. And you didn't have to, worry about having to wait 2-3 hours for a ride, or whatever the current wait times are for some of these rides. And it's one of those things that it when you experienced it before and now you go through this new system with Genie Plus, you really you kind of say to yourself, I would really kind of prefer going back to the old system.
So let me ask you this, Walt, because when I started going back, the ticket Fast Pass that you're talking about was being phased out because the Magic Bands were starting to come in. Do you find it was much easier to get Fast Passes and much easier to get on these rides when you actually had to physically go into a park and go to one of the kiosks than it was even back when FastPass was still free, but you did everything through the mobile, on the internet. Did you find that it was much easier to grab that because people actually had to physically get up in the morning? They had to rush into the park. They had to book their FastPass at a kiosk, and then when it became, well, we could book everything online, you just wake up in the morning on your window and just plug it in. So so what I'm trying to say is that did you find it easier? Was it much easier to get on rides when you had to go to the park to get the ticket FastPass?
Yes,
I thought so.
It was much easier to do it that way because everyone has an Apple or has an iPhone or an Android now, so you're fighting millions of people. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's not millions,
but yeah, at the same time,
at least hundreds of thousands of people at any given time, at the same time, that are trying to get that fast pass. And as an example, when they had the Rise of the Resistance, where you had to actually get the I'm drawing a blank here on the what was it called?
Oh,
you had to make like a reservation for it.
Now I'm drawing a blank too, but yes, you had to go into the queue in the mornings. Yes.
Yeah, I can't.
Yep.
Yeah, the queue, correct, in the morning. And if you literally missed that window by 5 seconds, you weren't getting on. So, and I think you had a similar. You had a similar experience with Ratatouille, but you were able to get it. But Rise of the Resistance early on was a nightmare. If you didn't get on at 7 and like 2 seconds, you weren't going to get it. So I much prefer, to answer your question, I much prefer the paper fast pass, and I thought it was much easier to get on rides with that old fashioned paper fast pass. Again, it's like I said, it's one of those things that I do miss. Back before they changed all of these rules and you were allowed to have 3 fast passes, that system was also pretty good. But again, the paper fast pass was just fun because you actually had to go to the kiosk and get your ticket, and you were really happy that
you had it.
You knew you were guaranteed to get on the ride at that time. Yep. So what's your miss?
My miss is someplace that we used to go to. You guys turned me on to it when we first started going down together. Was Wolfgang Puck Express, which most of you probably know if you're Disney people like us and you go down to Disney Springs. It was located in the marketplace directly next to the Christmas store. And it was a counter service restaurant. It had a restaurant food. Like, it wasn't like your typical counter service food, but you had to go up, you had to order at the counter, and then they gave you a number to put on your table. And then at that point, whoever he or she brought your food over then became your waiter for your refills or et cetera and whatnot after that. And I have to say, for counter service, the food was excellent. And it actually turned into a tradition, pre-COVID, that every night, our travel day, we never, up until we became pass holders, even when we did become pass holders, our first night was always dinner at Wolfgang Puck's. Always. And I generally used to get the meatloaf dinner over there with they had some great mac and cheese over there too.
Bacon wrap.
Yes, that's right. It was bacon wrap.
Bacon wrap meatloaf.
But yeah, it was great food at a great price in a great location, because most of the times it wasn't packed. So generally and it was just walking. There was no reservations. Like I said, it was counter service. You could get wine there. They had alcohol, they had beer, they had all that. They took the discounts for DVC as well as pass holder. And unfortunately, when things started to reopen after the lockdowns, when Disney was shut down for 4 months, Wolfgang Puck Express did not reopen. And as our last trip, when we just got back a few weeks ago, it was still nothing has reopened in that store yet. So, but yeah, that's what I missed. That was a tradition that it was like clockwork. The first night of every vacation was Wolfgang Puck Express, and you just knew you were home. You were at the place you wanted to be. And so that one hurt when I saw that on social media when that place closed up as everything was starting to reopen. That one hurt a little bit because it wasn't only that the food was good at a good price,
and that was on the meal plan as a counter service also
right. I did
for a
forget
long
that.
time. So you could go there and have, and that was one of the reasons why I started going there is when I would purchase the meal plan. That value was tremendous for the meal plan because it was a counter service and not a table service. So you basically were getting table service quality food for the counter service. So that and like you said, the bacon wrap meatloaf was tremendous. My wife had the chicken there. Their pizzas were outstanding, freshly made. So like you said, it was, the quality of the food was excellent. Now there still is a Wolfgang Puck restaurant on the other side of Disney Springs, but that particular one you're talking about did close up, and it was one of my favorites as well. So I agree with you on that one. It's too bad that it closed up. And who knows, maybe they'll reopen in the future somewhere else. But yeah, that one, you're right.
That one hurt out of
when it
everything.
closed.
That one, for whatever reason, like I said, that really hurt. And I think it wasn't just because of the food and the quality and the price you were getting. And the service was phenomenal there. Actually, I believe his name was Hans. We used to get him all the time. He would remember us. So, and it was just, it was a good place to go with good food, great service, and you never really had a line. But yep, that's what we miss at Walt Disney World. And, I think that's a good place to wrap. Walt, what do you think? Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of the Disney Resorts podcast. For Walt Ramirez, I'm Kenny Hayes. Take care, everybody.